Hi, my name is Margaret Thatcher, and I was born October 13th, 1925 in Grantshire, England. I have one sister named Marianne. Even though she was 5 years older than me, I still had a great relationship with her. When I was young, TV and phones were just invented, so I'd always rush home after school to watch my favorite show. I always attended state schools because my family wasn't wealthy. My mom and dad owned a grocery store that we lived above. Our house lacked running water, heating, and even an indoor toilet. When I was 14, I helped my dad in his first election. I always did well in school, so that's why later I got a spot at Oxford University to become a chemist. My teacher there later won a Nobel Prize. Then I got my first job as a chemist. My team and I led to the production of soft serve ice cream. Most people think I didn't help, but I know I did. Then I got married to Dennis Thatcher. Then I realized I didn't want to be a chemist anymore because it just wasn't for me, so I decided to become a lawyer. While studying for the bar, I had twins, Mark and Carol Thatcher. It was hard studying while I had 2 small children, but somehow I managed to get through it. Then I was asked to become a member of the government, responsible for our pensions and benefits. I was always good at understanding all complicated rules, and I always worked hard. I began to become quite well known, and in 1970, when a man named Edward Heath became Prime Minister, I was given the important job of Education Secretary, responsible for Britain's schools and colleges. I took away free milk from school systems. People got mad, and I ended up with the nickname Margaret Thatcher Milk Snatcher. I hated it, so I quit. Then I ran for Prime Minister. I won. The first few months were very boring, but then things got crazy. Argentina tried to invade the Falkland Islands, claiming that it was theirs. Most people were very impressed. When the next election came, people re-elected me. During my second term, the Irish Republican Army bombed the hotel that I was staying in. I was not harmed, but many of my close friends were. Then I ran for my last term. I won again. Most people wanted Europe to have one currency, but I didn't like that idea. I wanted the UK to be unique. Because of this, people didn't want me as their prime minister anymore, so I resigned in 1990. A few years later, I wrote a couple books. Then I had a minor stroke which left me in bad condition. 3 years later, I had a bigger stroke, but this time led me to death. I died on April 8th, 2013. My most historical impact on the world was that I was the first female British prime minister.
Hi, I'm Bob Iger. I was born February 10th, 1951 in Austen, New York, to our family, Amelia Earhart. My grandfather, Jerry Iger, was a cartoonist, which helped develop my love for entertainment at a young age. I graduated from Mozart High School in 1969. I started my career in television at Ithaca College as a weatherman. I graduated from Ithaca College in 1973. I am married with 4 children. I started at ABC as production assistant in 1974. After working my way up in the company, I was promoted to VP of ABC Sports in 1985 and was later promoted to president of ABC's entertainment division in 1988. In 1994, I was promoted to ABC's chief operating officer. I officially joined Disney's senior management team as chairman of the ABC Group when the Walt Disney Company bought ABC in 1996. In 1999, I was made president of Walt Disney International. In 2000, I was named Disney's president and chief operating officer. I was closely involved in the opening of Hong Kong Disneyland in 2005. I continued to expand in China and opened Shanghai Disneyland in June 2016. I made Disney industry leader through creative content offerings across new platforms, including streaming services ESPN Plus and Disney Plus. Under my leadership, Disney has made 4 major acquisitions that changed the direction of the company forever. Those acquisitions were Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and 21st Century Fox. My autobiography, The Ride of Lifetime, was published in 2019 and became a New York Times bestseller. I was named executive chairman of the Walt Disney Company in 2020. I retired in 2021 at the age of 70, but returned as CEO on November 20, 2022 to East Texas within the Walt Disney Company. I have received many CEO of the Year awards and sat on boards of many charities, including the 9/11 Memorial Museum. My historical impact was forming the modern Disney that everyone knows today. My bold choices and risk taking cemented Disney as a media giant.
Hi, my name is Hedwig Eva Marie Kiesler, being primed to me better by my stage name Hedy Lamarr. I was born on November 9, 1914 in Vienna, Austria, into a well-known Jewish family. My mother was a concert pianist and my father was a bank director. As a young child, I was interested in how things worked. I would discuss with my father how things like the printing press worked. I was interested in motion picture movies too. After starring in some small movies and films in Austria, I received an offer from MGM Studio in 1997. I accepted the offer and moved from Austria to the United States and changed my name from Hedwig Eva Marie Kiesler to Hedy Lamarr because it sounded more glamorous. I I was a famous actress during World War II whose movies like Samson and Delilah and My Favorite Spy helped distract audiences from the hardships of the war. But I wanted to do more than distract audiences from the war. I wanted to help win it. With my good friend George Antheil, I developed a secret communication system that would prevent enemies from being able to interfere with torpedoes launched from warships. But it worked by constantly changing frequencies of wireless transmissions. Without knowing the correct frequency, you would not be able to block, read, or change a message. When my invention was finished, we had created a jam-proof torpedo guidance system. We even got a patent on our invention. George and I went to the U.S. Navy and told them they had to use our invention in order to prevent the Nazis from being able to interfere with torpedoes launched from warships. But the U.S. Navy did not have the time or the money to use our invention. Worse, they marked it a secret, so not even me or George could use our invention. They kept it secret for more than 40 years, long after my patent was expired. My historical impact is that today I use the technology I invented to send text messages, make phone calls, and access the internet securely. Although I was never paid for my invention, I was eventually recognized in 1997 when I received the Electronic Frontier Foundation's Pioneer Award. I died on January 19, 2000 and was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame after my death in 2014.
Hi, my name is Abraham Lincoln. I was born February 12, 1809 in Hodderville, Kentucky. My parents were Thomas and Nancy Lincoln. My mom died when I was 9 years old and my sister took care of me until my dad got remarried. Eventually, my family moved to Illinois where I set out on my own. As a teen, I worked a variety of jobs, including shopkeeper, surveyor, and postmaster. I soon moved into politics and won a seat in the Illinois legislature when I was 25. I served in the Illinois legislature for 4 terms. I ran for U.S. Congress in 1845 and served 1 term. I ran for U.S. Senate and didn't win but gained national recognition for my argument against slavery. I soon ran for U.S. President and won. I was president for the 16th. I was president for the Civil War and faced more than 600,000 soldiers die. I soon read the Emancipation Proclamation, which was in order to free all slaves in the Confederate States. Although it didn't free all slaves, it paved the way for the 13th Amendment, which would free all slaves. April 14, 1865, John Mills Booth slipped into my theater and shot me in the back of my head. I was pronounced dead April 15, 1865, 7:22 a.m. My most historical impact on the world was that I was the 16th president and that I ended slavery.
Good day, my name is Jane Austen. I was born on December 16, 1775 in Steventon, England. I'm the youngest of 7 children. At the age of 6, my family and I started theater. My sister Cassandra and I started boarding school at Oxford, but shortly left after because of the type disease and because of financial constraints. We then moved to Abbey School in Reading, then came back with our formal education. I started writing short stories and poems. I started working on my first story called Lady Susan. Then I started writing my first poem called Ode to Pity. I started writing one of my most famous novels called Sense and Sensibility. I met a young man named Tom LaFoy. We instantly fell in love with each other, but his parents did agree to our marriage and took him away so I could never see him again. I started writing another one of my most famous novels called Pride and Prejudice. We went to visit my brother and his wife in Bath, England. I started working on Northanger Abbey. I finished Lady Susan. My father sadly passed away. I served in the military at the age of 30. I wrote a letter to my publisher, Crosby. He said that I need to purchase it in order for him to publish all my books, but I didn't have the money. I started working on Emma with my words of persuasion. I died at the age of 41 in 1817 because of the type of disease. My books became more popular after my death. My historical impact was I found word culture and pointed out all the unfair ways we were treated. My impact on reading was for entertainment and pride and joy for reading.
Pleasure to meet you. I'm Elizabeth Alexander Mary Windsor. My family calls me Lilibeth, and you may know me as Your Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of the United Kingdom and other Commonwealth. I reigned for 70 years and 214 days, making me the longest reigning British monarch in the world and the longest reigning female monarch in the world. I would be honored to be able to tell you some important moments from my life and reign. I was born April 21st, 1926, the same year television was first demonstrated publicly. Growing up, my sister and I loved dogs and ponies. Our first dog was called Dookie. In 1936, when I was 10, my uncle abdicated, making my father king when everything changed. 3 years later, when I was 13, World War II broke out. I knitted socks for soldiers as part of my allowance to help with the children. When I was 18, I worked in the women's branch of the British Army. I worked as an auto mechanic and a driver. Throughout my long life and reign, I've hit many major milestones, from my coronation in 1953 to my Platinum Jubilee, marking 70 years from the throne. Personally, I will always remember my marriage to my beloved husband Philip and the births of my 4 children, but I was also able to meet with 11 sitting U.S. presidents, visit over 106 different places on official occasions, host more than 150 world leaders, and finally, I ruled for 70 years, making me the longest reigning British monarch in the world. Although I, like any other person, have experienced some hardships. Some of these low points were the divorces of 3 out of 4 of my children, Harry and Meghan's exit from the royal family, the deaths of Princess Diana, my sister Margaret, my beloved husband Philip, and finally, the UK became less important worldwide during my reign. Despite these setbacks, when I look back on the long-lasting impact I have made, I am proud. My most positive historical impact on the road was that I reigned for 70 years and 214 days, making me the longest reigning British monarch. I modernized the monarchy, and I became a symbol of recognition for Britons all over the world. God save the Queen.
Hi, my name is Amelia Earhart. I was born on July 24th, 1897 at my grandparents' house. By 12 weeks, I could laugh and talk. By May 1898, I was crawling and took my first steps 3 months later. At the age of 2, I was putting myself to bed. At the age of 3, I was bundled up and sent to my grandparents' house because my mom was having a baby. At the age of 7, my father had enough money to take us to the World Fair. At the World Fair is when I saw my first airplane. Family life is not easy. My father struggled keeping a job and often struggled making payments. By my early teens, my parents split and my mother took me and my sister to Chicago. By 19, I was sent to Oxnard School in Pennsylvania. I became a nurse in Toronto and stayed there until World War I was over. My parents reunited when I was 22. When I was 23, I saw an air show in Long Beach, became fascinated by the tricks and stunts, and wanted to become a pilot. I was trained by Nita Schnook. By 1929, I was working in air shows. I became the best known female pilot in America. In 1930, I earned the nickname Lady Lindy. However, I also became the first female pilot to fly from Hawaii to California. On January 15, 1935, I took off from Honolulu and 18 hours later landed in Oakland. My next big challenge was to fly across the world solo, but after several failed radio calls to the Coast Guard, I was never heard from again. I was never found, and neither was my plane. My most historical impact is being the first female pilot to fly across the world solo, the Pacific Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean solo. However, I also accomplished being a fashion designer, women's activist, and being an author and speaker.
Hello, my name is Charles Darwin. I was born February 12th, 1809 in England. As a kid, my parents were very wealthy as my mom and dad were both doctors. I was very fascinated by the world around me and spent hours watching birds and studying nature under my dining room table. I had a pretty ordinary childhood, except I didn't really like school that much. When I was a teenager, I loved biology, chemistry, and geology, and when I was 18 years old, I dropped out of medical school because I didn't like all the lectures, and at the time they didn't use painkiller either. When I was 22 years old, I was hired as a ship naturalist. A naturalist's job is to collect plants, animals, rocks, and fossils. Most of my trips included me sailing around South America, where I discovered my theory on evolution, which was later proved by a student named Laura Van Holstein. When I was 50 years old, I wrote about the origin of species, but was too scared to publish it because I didn't think society was ready for this information yet. Eventually I did, and I was right. My family and friends hated me, and people called me the most dangerous man in England. On Christmas, I had a heart attack followed by seizures, and died April 19th, 1882 at the age of 73 years old, and was buried in Westminster Abbey, England. It is debated that my final words were, "I wish I had not expressed my theory on evolution as I have done," and my most historical impact on the world is my theory on evolution that was the origin of species.
Hello there, my name is Roslyn Franklin, and I was born on July 25th, 1920 to Marianne and Alice Franklin. I was the second oldest of 5 children. When I was born, women did not have the same rights as men did, but my father, Ellis, insisted, however, that me and my sister receive the same education as my brothers. I always took my education very seriously, working for the best grades I could possibly get. I particularly liked studying science, languages, and sports. Although I love science, I was not always able to use the laboratories like male students did. Throughout my education, under several people that paved the way for my most important scientific discovery, one of them was Jacques Méring. Under Jacques Méring, I studied X-ray diffraction. X-ray diffraction is where X-rays are shot at a substance, then they bend or diffract around the substance atoms and imprint on the photographic plate behind the substance. Using this, you could tell what structures of that substance is. After my time in France with Jacques Méring, I further studied X-ray diffraction at King's College in England. Using this technique, that's where I first discovered the double helix structure of DNA, as shown in my famous photo 51. When I left King's College, Maurice Wilkins, a scientist I worked with there and did not like very much, showed my photograph to James Watson and Francis Crick. They began constructing a model of DNA's double helix and took credit for my discovery. Sadly, my exposure to harmful X-rays took its toll on my health, and I died in 1958 due to ovarian cancer at the age of 37. Unfortunately, I did not marry or have children, as I feared it would interfere with my important work. In 1962, Watson, Crick, and Wilkins received the Nobel Prize in Physiology for solving DNA. Watson, Crick, and Wilkins didn't even mention me or my contributions in their acceptance speech. My greatest historical impact on the world was my discovery of the double helix structure of DNA. I also paved the way for many future scientists working to remove or replace sections of DNA to help treat or prevent diseases. I also paved the way for many future female scientists.
Hello, I am Maya Angelou. I was born April 4th, 1928, as Margaret Ann Johnson in Missouri. My brother Billy nicknamed me Maya. My parents, Vivian Baxter and Billy Johnson, divorced when I was 3. When I was 7, my mother's boyfriend, Freeman, abused me. I told my brother what happened, so Freeman was sent to jail. When he was released, he was killed. I thought I killed that man because I told his name, so I did not speak for 6 years. Until my teacher, Miss Flowers, taught me, you do not love poetry not until you speak it. After graduating high school, I had my son Clyde Billy Johnson. In 1950, I married Tasha Angelus, but we got divorced 2 years later. I kept his name my whole life. I sang and danced in cabaret and calypso, traveling on the world, performing and writing. In 1960, after hearing Dr. King speak, I became active in the civil rights movement. In 1969, I wrote my first, most famous autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I wrote many autobiographies, essays, and poetry books about my life and racism. My poetry books were turned into spoken albums, which won me 3 Grammys. Over the years, I was awarded over 50 honorary degrees. I was the first African-American woman to have a book made into a screenplay. One highlight of my life was being presented the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Barack Obama. My social impact on the world was for my famous writings of books and poetry and my civil rights work I wrote throughout my life. I died from poor health and respiratory failure from all my years of dancing on May 28, 2014.
Hi, I'm Queen Victoria. I was born in Kensington Palace, London on May 24th of 1890. I was raised as a single child less than a year after my birth due to the passing of my father, Prince Edward, Duke of Kent. My mother used a strict timetable of lessons to make sure I became a clever and good person as preparation for becoming queen one day. I described my childhood as lonely and unhappy and at times tough. I took the royalty reign in 1837 at the age of 18. During the early parts of my reign, I was influenced by 3 men. My first Prime Minister, Lord Melbourne, and my husband, Prince Albert, Prince Consort. During my reign, there were many attempts to kill me, most being assassins. Back then, the royalty family did not believe in marrying anyone outside the royalty family, so in 1840 I married my first cousin, Prince Albert, Prince Consort. My achievements are that I reigned for more than 63 years as queen, I was named after many places throughout the globe, and I ruled over a quarter of the globe, including Australia, Ireland, and India. I was in a devastated state of mourning after the death of my husband. So for the rest of my 40 years of life, I refused to wear any colored outfit except black. My last words were, "Had it for a night, boys, a little wakeful." On the day of January 29, 1901, I passed. I passed due to a cerebral hemorrhage of type of brain cancer. My most positive historical impact on the world was in the 1800s. I oversaw the expansion of the British Empire, which would lead to a fifth of the Earth's surface by the end of the century, and critical reforms to the monarchy. Thank you and have a good day.
I am Barack Obama. I was born in Hawaii on August 4th, 1964. This means that I'm the first president born outside the continental states. My parents are from different backgrounds, and I grew up with my grandparents. I married Michelle Robinson, who is a lawyer like me. We have two beautiful daughters named Sasha and Malia. My life experiences help me understand, work with, and appreciate people from different cultures. It has also helped me become a better leader later in my life. My education started in Indonesia and continued in Hawaii. I graduated high school with honors. I played varsity basketball, which I still enjoy playing today. I attended Columbia University and Harvard Law School. I was the third African American editor of the Harvard Law Review. After college, I turned towards government. I became an Illinois State Senator before serving as President of the U.S. for 8 years. Two of my most positive historical impacts on the world include promoting peace around the world and signing the Paris Climate Agreement to help the planet. Becoming the 44th president took a lot of hard work, dedication, and an amazing family. However, this shows that anyone can pursue and live the American dream. Aside from politics, I wrote 2 books which became bestsellers, though my biggest accomplishment is becoming a father.
Hi, I'm Aretha Franklin. I was born on March 15, 1942. I sang with the New Bethel Baptist Church. At the age of 10, I sang my first ever solo song in 1952. Every Sunday, I would sing as a member of the New Bethel Baptist Church family choir. I inspired African American women to demand rights and respect. I was the first African American to become popular. In 1961, I married Glenn Turman and soon later divorced. I got divorced to Glenn Turman because Glenn Turman and I never had time for each other and never saw each other. In 1978, I married Ted White and soon later divorced. I got divorced to Ted White because Ted White was abusive to me. I had a son named Ted Jr. who is still alive today and is now a famous guitarist and singer. I won 18 Grammy Awards. In 2005, I won an award called the Presidential Medal of Freedom. My most historical impact on the world was in 1978. I was the first African American woman included in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I was the first African American to become popular. I'm a civil activist for American fighting, civil rights, liberation, and equality.
Hello, my name is Henry Ford, and I was born on July 30th, 1863 in Springwells Township, Michigan. I had 6 siblings, and I was the youngest of them all. My mom sadly passed away in 1876 when I was only 13 years old. I left home in 1879 to work in Detroit as a machine apprentice. I came back home working frequently at Westinghouse operating and repairing steam engines. As a machinist, I designed the quadricycle, my first car. On April 11, 1888, I got married to Claire Bryant. 8 years later, Claire and I had a son named Netzel Bryant Ford. On October 10, 1901, I entered one of my cars in a 10-mile race and won first place. 2 years later, Ford Motor Company was officially founded and I was the vice president and chief engineer. 5 years later, I introduced the Ford Model T, an efficient and inexpensive car for customers. And it was a great success. I died on April 7, 1947 at the age of 83 years old. I died of a cerebral hemorrhage in Dearborn, Michigan. My most historical impact is the assembly line. The assembly line consisted of a conveyor belt that would move a product down the line to a station employee that would assemble the product piece by piece. The assembly line is still in use today across many product lines.
Hi, my name is Christopher Columbus. I'm the son of a wool merchant and was born in Genoa, Italy between August 26 and October 31st, 1451. When I was a teenager, I got a job on a merchant ship. I remained at sea until 1476 when pirates attacked my ship as it sailed north along the Portuguese coast. My boat sank, but I floated to shore on Scotland Wood, where I made my way to Lisbon, where I eventually studied math, astronomy, cartography, and navigation. During this time, I began to think about a plan that would change the world forever. On August 3rd, 1492, I started my voyage across the Atlantic Ocean from Spain with a crew of 90 men and 3 ships, the Santa Maria, Nina, and Pinta. I was determined to find a direct water out west from Europe to Asia, but I never did. Instead, I stumbled upon the Americas. My most historical impact was opening a way for European countries to colonize and exploit those lands and their people. Trade was soon established between Europe and the Americas. An exchange of plants, animals, culture, ideas, language, and art happened between the people of Europe, Asia, and the people of the Americas. While I obtained gained great wealth from expeditions. I became an outcast and died when I was 55 of age-related causes on May 20th, 1506, Valentine in Spain.
Hi, my name is Ruth Hannah. I was born in Denver, Colorado on November 4th, 1914. My parents were Polish-Jewish immigrants named Ida and Jacob Moskowitz. I was the youngest of 10 siblings. When I was 16, I went to a high school dance and met the future love of my life, Elliot Hamlin. During my second year of college at the University of Denver, I landed a job at Paramount Studios. In 1938, my husband and I decided to move to Los Angeles. Elliot and I had a girl in 1941 named Barbara and a son in 1944 named Ken. During World War II, my husband and Harold Matson started a garage workshop which they named Mattel. It wasn't long before Harold fully sold his share of the company and we fully owned Mattel. In 1956, our family took a trip to Europe. It was there that we saw a doll that looked so different from the paper dolls and baby dolls most little girls played with. My most historical impact on the world was the Barbie dolls I created.
Hi, my name is Marianne. I was born on May 21st, 1799, in Seaside, town of Lamai, Vegas, United Kingdom. I was the 10th child of the family. As a kid, my dad brought my brother and I to the beach to find fossils. Some of our finds were ichthyosaurus and plesiosaurus. I continued to hunt for fossils after my dad died because my family really needed support. I was the first person to discover the fossil called plesiosaurus. An ichthyosaurus species was even named after me. Even though I only went to school on Sunday, I still had confidence to read and write. I only went to school on Sunday because my parents were too poor to send me to school every day. But I was so interested in learning, so I took it upon myself to learn more and more and never gave up. I had a dog named Troy who was always by my side. He loved to dig as well. He died in 1833 because of a falling landslide. I died on March 9, 1847 because of breast cancer at the age of 47. I was the last one to die in my family. My grave is in St. Michael, the Archangel of Lamai, Vegas, United Kingdom. The most positive historical impact on the world was that I was the first ever out of men and women to be a paleontologist and to discover most fossils first. Thank you for listening. It's time for me to keep digging.
Hi, my name is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, but most people call me Mozart for short. I was born on a cold and snowy day, January 27, 1756. Before I was born, my dad was a great composer too. He taught me how to play the violin and piano at age 5. At this age, I became an excellent player for both those instruments. At age 6, I traveled the bumpy roads of Europe to perform for royal families. At age 10, I did my opera. At age 10, I did my symphony in London, and in Paris, I did my first symphony. At age 13, I became honorary concertmaster at the Strasbourg court. And besides being concertmaster, I was very fluent in my music. I was also in the choir. At age 19, I did my opera La Finta Geometra, and at age 29, I had symphony numbers 30, 39, 40, and 41. I was 3 months before I died, I did my last opera, The Magic Flute. And then finally, when I died, people thought that I must have been poisoned by another composer, but the truth is that I actually died a nice and peaceful death. My historical impact in the world is that I composed some of the greatest symphonies ever made, lifted chamber music to new heights of artistic achievement. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Melinda Gates, and I was born on August 15, 1964 in Dallas, Texas. I'm the second oldest child out of 4 children. When I was 14, my dad bought the Apple II computer, which was the first computer sold to consumers. I learned computer programming, and I wanted to play games, so I convinced my parents to let me stay in my room. I started growing a love for technology and science. I went to a Catholic high school for girls called Ursuline Academy. When I graduated, I took a tour of Duke University and found out about the computer science section. I got into Duke University and went for computer science. When I graduated, I got a bachelor's degree in computer science and master's in business. I got a job at Microsoft as a product developer. I met my boss, Bill Gates, in 1987 at a PC trade show. Over 9 years of working at Microsoft, I got myself up to General Manager of Information Products. In 1994, Bill and I got married, and I also left Microsoft that year. We've opened up a foundation together, and we've had 3 children. In 2021, Bill and I Bill and I divorced and announced it. Our foundation, okay. We've been married for 27 years, and even though we divorced, our foundation still runs strong. I realized that giving myself into our marriage wasn't healthy, and that I couldn't trust our relationship. I've won 7 awards, and one of those awards are the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I've also donated $560 million for improving female contraception in impoverished areas. My most historical impact is Bill and I opened a foundation together. Our foundation has helped improve poverty, health, and inequality all around the world. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jesus Christ. I am the Son of God and the Blessed Mother Mary with Joseph. I was born in Bethlehem of Judea over 2,000 years ago. Nearly everything known about me comes from the Bible, also known as the Gospel. Before I was born, God sent Angel Gabriel to visit Blessed Mother Mary and Joseph. Angel Gabriel told them that Mother Mary will give birth to the Son of God and name him Jesus. I was going to save his people from their sins. Also, Angel Gabriel told Joseph to take Mother Mary as his wife because it is the Lord's will. When I was about 30 years old, I began preaching the kingdom of my Father. At this time, I went to visit Cousin John to be baptized and was so done at the Jordan River. When I came out of the water, the Spirit of my Father, God, formed as a dove, said, This is my beloved Son, and I am very pleased. After I was baptized, I formed a group of 12 followers, or disciples, called the Apostles. To help me spread the message of my Father, God. I taught people to forgive others, pray, and to live a good life, and to honor God, my Father, in order to enter His kingdom. As I continued spreading the message of my Father, as I continued spreading the message of my Father, I was able to explain. I performed over 30 miracles that were acts of my Father. I continue explaining the message of my Father. That were parables. They were short stories that people could understand, such as that people could understand. My gospel also told us parables that describe various miracles, such as raising the dead, turning water into wine, and healing the sick. After a series of events, I was quickly arrested and taken to trial, which led to my crucifixion. After my crucifixion, I was buried in a tomb with a stone rolled across the opening. On the 3rd day, I walked out of my tomb and went to see my disciples. I spent 40 days with them and gave them instructions to go and find more disciples and to baptize them. After 40 days, angels came down and lifted me into the heavens. My most historical positive impact on the world was throughout my atonement, teachings, and peace. I was able to help people change their lives, face their fear, face their trial, and to move forward with their faith as you journey back to me and my Father God.
Hi, my name is Agnes. You might know me as Mother Teresa. I was born August 26, 1910 in Skopje, the capital of Macedonia. I had a mom named Drina, a dad named Nicola, a brother named Lazar, and a sister named Maggie. I knew from a young age that God wanted me to help others. I was always good at school growing up. That's probably why I became a teacher, but my love for God led me to join the Sisters of Loretto, an order of teaching in India. I loved teaching so much I became principal at St. Mary's, the school at Loretto. This is when I became Mother Teresa. I
I started with what I knew by teaching giving. I taught the little kids the alphabet and gave bars to their families. And I taught the little kids the alphabet and bars to their families. And when I was 36, God called me once again. He told me to work and live among the poor. But first, I asked permission from the Pope. When I finally got permission to leave my order, I started wearing a white sari instead of my hat to look like one of the people. With it, I built an orphanage and a home for the sick and dying. I also helped foreign missionaries around the world. I was very stubborn when it came to helping the poor. I would go on begging trips when the person refused to donate. I would sit down and pray my rosary until they gave in. I received many awards and donations. I even won the Nobel Peace Prize. But the fame I received did not interest me. I even found it annoying. But the good the money did was worth getting annoyed. In 1997, my heart finally stopped beating. I was finally able to rest with my family. But the good the money did was with my family. So many people were praying to me. I felt the need to help them. In 2016, I became a saint after performing a couple of miracles. I always hear and help the people in need. My historical impact is that I founded the order called Missionary Charity. I helped orphan babies and helped the poorest of the poor. In 1979, I received the Nobel Peace Prize. After my death, I was canonized as St. Mother Teresa. Thank you.
Hi, my name is George Washington. I was born on February 22nd, 1732 in Westmoreland County, Virginia. My dad died when I was 11 years old. I grew up on a farm. I was highly educated. My family was wealthy and had many slaves. My half-brother Lawrence was my best friend. My half-brother Lawrence was my best friend. I never attended college. I got my first job when I was 16 as a surveyor. Lawrence got a bad illness, so I traveled to Barbados to get a cure, but sadly Lawrence died. On January 6, 1759, I married Martha Custis. Martha was a widow and she had 2 kids. I was the representative of Virginia. I fought in the Revolutionary War as a commanding general of the army. Then in 1787, I returned home to Virginia. Then in 1789, I got elected as the first president of the U.S. Then in 1793, I ran for a second term and got elected again. Then in 1797, I refused to run for a third term and I retired. My wife and I welcomed visitors into our home for breakfast and dinner. I only got to enjoy 3 years of my retirement because on December 14th, 1799, I died because of a throat infection called epiglottitis. My most historical impact on the world is I was first president of the U.S. and I led the Continental Army to win against the British for independence. My last words were, I am just going and have me decently buried, and do not let my body be put in the walls and 3 days after I am dead. Then do you understand me? 'Tis well.